Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tim Costello, and today we're going to be talking about how do you find your life direction when every person, every app, every notification is vying for your attention in some way or the other. And today, if you're feeling overwhelmed and you don't know where to start, but you know that you're meant for something deeper, something purposeful, and you want to get back on track or find that direction, this video is for you. I am someone who suffers greatly with distraction. This has been something I've dealt with a long time. When I was younger in school, it was very hard for me to stay focused, stay motivated, and keep on track, especially if it was with topics or activities that I wasn't interested in. This is something that's very prevalent for me, and I know a lot of people, because staying on task, being focused, and working towards what we truly want and what is going to be gratifying and purposeful us. And I think it makes it exponentially harder in this, beautiful age of technology where we have all the information that we could ever need in our pocket. And it's hard to decipher, hard to cut through the noise and understand where we need to focus because there is so much noise. So what we need to start to do is really identify what are those distractions for us. That's going to come through self-awareness and knowing of our own personal patterns in psychology. So being able to identify what that noise is for you is always going to be step one, right? When we want to get something done, but there's something in the way, we have to identify what that obstacle is. And as Ryan Holiday says, the obstacle is the way. That distraction is our opportunity and is blocking what is getting us movement in our purpose, in our life direction, and ultimately that dream and that life we want to create and live. What is it that truly distracts me? Maybe it's social media, maybe it's self-destructive patterns where the minute that you start working towards something that is important to you, you figure out that, hey, I need to do the dishes, or I need to do laundry, or I need to sweep, or I need to clean. If it's getting in the way of the work that we need to do to move ourselves forward in the direction and to gain that little bit of momentum and motivation that we need to keep on going, this is something that needs to be addressed. Now, why is it so important to identify and prioritize and organize all of the noise in your life? We need to think of ourselves as like a radio antenna. It depends what we're tuned into to understand the messages that we're going to receive and the information that we ought to know to be able to move forward. Because once we can tune ourselves to the right frequency of our dream or our life's direction, it's going to be a lot easier to gain clarity on our path forward. Now, in order to make that attunement correct, we need to understand what is in the way. What's the dust on the filter that's going to be skewing the frequencies coming in, that's blocking us from really getting that forward movement. Now, for me, I fully understand the dopaminergic reaction that happens when we get on our phone. I think everyone probably has this experience now or then where you flip on your phone and like without thinking, without thought, like all of a sudden you're on some app or another and you're in some scrolling motion or whatever that might be, watching a video, and it's completely distracting you from potentially what you've intended to do with your time. So identifying what these distractions are in our life, it can be a multitude of different things: social media, news cycle, content binging, whatever it is. Get an understanding of what affects you, why it affects you, how that distraction plays out in your life, and what it's stopping you from, because that's going to give you the awareness of the damage that this is potentially causing you in the short term, but it's also the opportunity for you to move forward. Once we can identify what the dust on the filter is, or the dust on the antenna that's getting in the way of us moving forward towards, building that dream, we need to start creating a personal focus framework, and you can call that whatever you want. I know myself, I am someone who can uphold the needs of others, right? When I'm working and my boss needs something, or I have a date that I need to get something completed by, that's going to be driving my action. And I know that creating this personal focus framework for ourselves, where we're our own boss, whether it's entrepreneurship or, if we're focused on personal growth or development, upholding our own needs can be really, really difficult for a lot of people, especially if you're a people pleaser, right? And so what we need to do is we need to get really clear on what is that long-term purposeful work, because long-term purposeful work is not immediately gratifying. Purposeful work has a payoff later down the line, and you will get an intrinsic payoff from doing purposeful work because If you've ever sat down and you've done purposeful work for an hour or two, you come out of that and you're feeling really good. Emotionally, you're like excited, and you also haven't been, draining your dopamine scanning Twitter or, Instagram or Facebook. That's the difference. Like, immediate gratification is not going to help invest in your long-term purposeful vision of what you want your life to be. So that's the first thing to note. It's like, if it's immediately gratifying, it's probably not moving the needle for you in the long term. So in the creation of that personal focus framework, we want to get really clear on what it is we actually want to do. The leap from identifying what it is you actually want to do and then getting into doing it, that's a whole nother battle, but we want to start with that personal focus framework. And so identify, what are those goals? What are the priorities of your life? What are the areas of your life that you want to work on? And there's a lot of different tools that can help you with this. If you look up the Wheel of Life, that's a great way to sort of pinpoint where you might be falling short and where you have opportunities on your life to grow and better yourself. We want to get really clear on what we value, what are our personal values, because that's going to allow us to be in alignment with our priorities, but also understand that which of the distractions and the noise are getting in the way, because if they're not aligned with your personal values, it's probably not doing you a lot of good. When we're aligned with our values and the long-term work and the dream of what we ultimately want to create, that's where we create that magic and that manifestation, because we're going to be fully aligned and working towards what it is we want to produce, and it's aligned with our values, and that's when the beautiful stuff starts to happen. But we have to know what those values are. And again, there's a lot of easy exercises to help you identify those values. So once we've gotten through the priorities and values, then we want to just get clear on what is the focus and the foundation of the priorities that we've set for ourselves. Like, I think goals are great, but goals can also be distracting. They can cause some negative emotions to come in if we're not moving as fast as we thought we ought to be, or if we're not at the rate of achievement that we thought we ought to be. Focusing on the foundational tasks that are going to move the needle regardless are really important, because there's always that slope of skill building and skill capture that comes with practice and persistence, where, at the start it's going to be slow and it's going to feel like a grind. You're just going to be bonking your head against the wall. But as we move closer to gaining some sort of semblance of ability, or even towards mastery, that ability to be productive is naturally going to have that hockey stick curve, because we've put in the time. So it's getting through that first sort of grindy time where we're focusing on the foundations, whatever that is going to move us towards that goal. And that's going to be aligned to our priorities and our values. And then we also need, interpersonally, we need to understand of how do we create boundaries in our life to ensure that we allow ourselves the time and the freedom and the creativity to move towards cutting the noise and focusing it is what we want to create. And so maybe that's creating agreements with your partner or your family or your friends, giving them a heads up that, hey, this is really important and I want your support in this. This is what I'm out to create. If you can respect my time during so-and-so hours, or if you can sort of help me brainstorm or be my thinking partner during these times, that's going to be really helpful. So it's just creating those interpersonal boundaries and agreements with others and yourself, so you can really settle down and focus in on what it is that we're working on. And through all of this, really what we're doing, what we're going to be building upon, is our resiliency to distraction. Whatever that means to you. For me, like, I don't have social apps on my phone. If I want to go check Instagram and or Facebook, I usually either have to download the app for a short period of time, or I just go to the web browser, which is a terrible experience, and it hinders me from, going on there and doom scrolling. And then once you've sort of built that pattern of not grabbing hold of those distractions and the dopamine reactions that we get from all this immediately gratifying things, it builds resilience, because it's building a new pattern in our being. It's building new neural pathways in our brain. It's going to make us easier to make the decision to focus on what it is that's truly important and get away from the distraction, the noise, and the immediate gratification. And ultimately, that's what habits build. That's what this is all about. And this is about the habit of cutting out distractions, so it allows what's on the other side, which is focusing on what's purposeful for us, whatever that might be for you. And it's going to be that long term, right? As we look at habits, it's all about building sort of automaticity, right? So for myself, I made the decision when I was like 18 that I was going to go to the gym 5 days a week for the rest of my life. And I've pretty much done that. And now I don't go to the gym 5 days a week. I do hot yoga once or twice a week. I run, I rollerblade, I lift weights. I have kettlebells outside because that's fast, but it's like when I want to work out, it's not even a decision. It's just like, okay, I'm working out because the neural pathways are built, and it's like going to the bathroom. It's like, I got to go to the bathroom and got to work out, right? But that habit has been formed, and that wasn't easy at the start. But once you build it, then then it becomes second nature to you. Another thing that really helps me in building resiliency to distraction is the process of mindfulness and meditation. So for me, having a meditation practice is something that is really important to me. I try to meditate, right now I'm probably doing about 4 times a week, 20 minutes a day, give or take, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, sometimes more days a week, sometimes more intense on others. But I find what that meditation is it really allows us to train our brain. And I'm always thinking about it as as a fitness metaphor, where mindfulness is like going to the gym for your mind, because the distractions and the thoughts and the emotions that come in, because we're that antenna and those are not our thoughts, we're just sort of receiving them, we can just be aware of them and let them go, aware of them and let them go. Feel something, acknowledge it, process it, let it go. And as we do that in that intensive practice of meditation, start with 5 minutes a day, and it's not easy, but yes, you're doing it right, because that's the whole point. It's like getting through all of this grind of thoughts and understanding, where we can now take that mindfulness into our daily lives. And as we have these distracting thoughts, or we have these distracting emotions that well up, and I'm not saying that they don't get me, because they do, and sometimes they send you into a funk, but we're shortening that period of funk, because we can, at some point just say like, hey, that's not something I have to hold on to. And that allows us the space to create the space so we can get back and work on what's truly important for us. Lastly, I guess, would be that concept of deep work. Cal Newport talks about that in his new book, Slow Productivity. Great book, go read it. And it's all about, again, everything we've talked about in this video, which is removing the distraction and then setting the time for that deep work. Deep work is about just sitting down and getting through it, right? And then being aware of all the thoughts and emotions that come up when you're like, I don't know what to do, I'm gonna go clean the frying pan. Or I don't know what to do, I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna sweep the patio, right? It's just like sitting down intentionally. And sometimes that deep work is really just being aware of that and doing as much as you can, because that's the long-term foundation that we're building. That's gonna help our brain, that's gonna help our ability to not be reactive, but to respond to stimulus how we want to. And that's ultimately what's going to allow us to be more productive and more mindful, because when we can just accept what's going on, right? Acceptance isn't just sitting on the top of a mountain and meditating. Acceptance is just that ability to realize what's coming into our life, accept it for what it is, and then to move forward in our action, right? That sort of understanding that mindfulness is a very active state. It doesn't mean that you're sedentary and silent the whole time. And all that being said, the world's not going to get less noisy, right? That noise is always going to be there, but these are the tools that we can build in our life to make sure that we can, identify that noise, create our own framework for working, and build the resilience to distraction so we can focus on it is what we want to create. Right? That's what we have at our disposal. By mastering the art of focus, not only will you remove the distractions from your life, but you're also going to regain control of your life so you can orient it in the direction that is aligned with your priorities and your values and your long-term aspirations. If this sounds like something you're into and you're ready to cut through the noise and the distraction, please subscribe to my channel, like my video, and keep on the lookout for more content like this. Thank you so much.